Market conditions remaining bearish in a bull market with that rank of that bull market 22.2. So we're seeing that number now starting to drop, which is a reference to this line right here at the top end of this chart. You can see it's kind of flattening and starting to roll over here. Had a couple of really significant days here in the last 2 days. We've seen momentum now stretch all the way down to the extreme end of that bearish range, and now at a location where we certainly could see some kind of a relief rally. Also seeing breadth weaken down into this bearish zone, and then also sentiment sitting about where it was at yesterday. Not a whole lot of changes there. Buy-sell ratio, we did see some continued acceleration. Now we're getting just about as wide as we typically get here. We're at 0.10, and that can go a lot lower. It can go down to 0.06, 0.05, even 0.03. I've seen it, but it's at pretty extreme bear market. So this actually is pretty low for the level of retracement that we've had already, which hasn't been that much. And we've also saw a pretty sharp move down in sentiment here as well. So down towards the bottom end of this. So if we take a look at this sentiment chart, this is S&P 500, and NASDAQ is also now entering this area. Volatility, it should be the opposite. So now we're seeing volatility in this upper range. So when we see equities dropping, volatility increasing, we're now extreme in both cases. Also bonds, if we look at bonds are now have retraced to this extreme level as well, both in long-term bonds as well as short-term, and gold towards the upper end of the range, and light sweet crude towards the upper end of that range as well. So set up for a relief bounce off of equities here, just at these extreme levels. If we take a look at S&P 500, in fact, let's look at those market ETFs here. S&P 500, we're sitting right at this really solid support area that's right here, and it's holding up. We'll see if we get futures are up slightly this morning, but we're extreme to this downside here, pulling back a couple of days of retracement. Not a really deep retracement. It's like I say, we're still up in that momentum zone. So if we can get an extreme reading and oversold and still maintain that momentum zone and get some support, some new demand happening at these levels, that could certainly propel the market higher within this overall uptrend. There's still a lot of FOMO. There's still a lot of want and need to be buying into equities at these levels. No, there's not a lot of fear, and so we'll see if that does accelerate the market. We are certainly extreme to the downside across the board on the indexes. If we look at the buy-sell ratios here, you're seeing S&P 500 now at 0.02. That's ridiculously low. 7 stocks in uptrends. So if we were to look at these 7 stocks that are in uptrends, you've got energy, you've got Amazon, Progressive Insurance, Charles Schwab, Alcoa, Lockheed Martin, Newmont Mining. That's actually a pretty good looking list of names right there for the current market conditions, but those are the only ones that are still maintaining uptrends, and the rest are either in holds or to the downside. So again, very, very weak, lots of oversold. These buy-sell ratios are about as low as they get right here. So we'll watch to see what ends up happening. Now that we can also have stocks that are in downtrends rally back up, but still stay in downtrend. So we could see a move higher, but it may not necessarily move these stocks back up. Might move some back to hold, but probably won't move them back up enough to adjust the buy-sell ratio. So we'll watch to see what any kind of rally does for the market right here as well. If we take a look at sector ETFs, really negative across the board now. We've got energy, which is barely holding on. Everything else is in downtrends. Commodities, we're continuing to see this uptrend in these core groups of commodities. We've got gold, which is still in that upper momentum zone, holding tight, and also silver, an attempted support range yesterday, bottoming tail bar, but some support here at 25.62 on SLV, and then USO, which is the oil ETF, is finding some support right here around that 80.47 range. We'll see if it does get some follow through. This is a nice looking bullish setup here where it's not extreme. It hasn't, and it's retraced and kind of been working through this sideways consolidation and pulling back inside of this with 1, 2, 3 bottoming tail bars at that support level for USO. So oil still looking and having a really bullish chart at this point. Muscle stocks, let's look here. We've got Oncology, ALXO. with a nice move yesterday, increased volume on that as well, work its way back up towards that zone. That 618 retracement is a deep enough corrective retracement zone right here, that and that 50% 618 retracement. This is the momentum location. The rest of these are corrective or counter trend locations. So we're still in an overall uptrend based on this time frame here, this 6-month time frame, which we typically like to utilize. And if it breaks through this momentum zone, now is a question, is it a correction, okay, or a counter trend still within this overall uptrend? And in this case, if it pulls back and finds some support inside of this, that could be just enough demand to do what it's doing now and turn the corner and get it back into an uptrend. So interesting stock right here. A little bit, it'd be nicer if it was a little bit higher up in this zone, but that's still a nice looking bullish pattern for that stock. CRBP, uptrend here in the momentum zone as well. Not a nice looking confirmation bar where it faded, it opened, it rallied, and then it faded and closed back down a little bit. Ideally, we want to see them up solid and holding that pattern, something like that. This would be a little bit lesser of a quality of a entry bar. NN is a nice looking confirmation pattern, continuation pattern here as well, bouncing off of the 236 support area in that momentum zone. Massive confirmation bar and increased volume right where you want to see that on NN. Good looking group of stocks for the day. That'll do it for today's update. Everyone have a fantastic day today.